talking about President Obama and his trip to Cuba. When you talk about potentially opening the floodgates to other people of color and what that possibility could be, I wanted to talk about his trip to Cuba this week.
This country's strengthening its relationship to Cuba is probably going to do more harm than good. I mean, it's nice to think that it's going to benefit the Cuban people, but we know, based on the history of the United States with Cuba, that they've isolated Cuba for over 50 years. And one of the reasons why they isolated Cuba was because she was a communist island and that she was supported by Russia. But damn, it doesn't make much sense for the United States to have meaningful relationships with Russia and not have meaningful relationships with Cuba. They just sent up three astronauts to the International Space Station. And that spaceship was launched from Russia. And Russia's going up. So there's this duplicitous relationship that America has with other white nations. But nations that are dominated by people of color get the stiff arm. So we have to be able to put Cuba into its proper perspective. The only reason why this country is strengthening relationships with Cuba is that they plan to exploit Cuba. And that's real. So in the midst of that exploitation, there will also be opportunities for advancement. And so we have to work strategically to minimize the exploitation and to expand these opportunities such that they benefit the Cuban people, the majority of whom are of African ancestry. So it affords us a wonderful opportunity to build some new bridges, but we really have to be strategic as to how we go about doing that.
Do you think that there will be conversations from authorities in New Jersey who said that this would be a historic warming of the ties between the United States and Cuba that would help capture and imprison Ms. Assata Shakur?
That's a possibility, and that possibility will be determined by who is in the White House, who's next in the White House. Let's be clear that Obama is on his way out. If the wrong people get in office, then we can be assured that Cuba will become an extension of U.S. Cuba will be exploited. The people of Cuba will be exploited, and no good for the Cuban people will come from this relationship. There will be casinos, there will be prostitution, there will be drugs, just like it was during the Batista regime. So it's critically important that people understand that we are sitting at a very important point in time in history.
How would you say that the Pan-African community really positioned itself to really support the people of Cuba during this transition?
One of the things that I'm sure Cuban people need is accurate historical information about who they are as people of African ancestry, accurate historical information about who we are as African Americans. And they need to know that we are there for them, that we are not coming there to exploit them like others will be coming. And that I'm sure that there are people in Cuba, people of African ancestry in Cuba, who have information that is vitally crucial to us. So we need to go to Cuba. We need to start going to Cuba in groups. We need to start going to Cuba, and in D.C. I've got plenty of friends who are in the art community. So they've been traveling to Cuba for at least a decade. Other artists coming and interacting with other Cuban artists, other historians going down, talking with other Cuban historians. So we need to build a cultural bridge that is rooted in our Africanness and be on the ground there to cultivate relationships with Cubans. So we do that knowing that others will come to exploit, but we can come there to enhance and build relationships.